Okay, 2 minutes to start. It's Dialogue on Mondays time. Okay, so kicking off our third installment of Dialogue on Mondays, fourth actually installment. Super excited. Just to recap that for the month of March, we are focusing on women arisen. Not your typical topic in the sense that we're exploring whether this is even something to still talk about, but super excited to be interviewing a couple of women who are doing amazing things in their corner, women who lead their lives, their work, their families with purpose, conviction, and a sense of there's something bigger than just me. And tonight, of course, I'll be talking to Tshego Kgaelae, our current Mrs. South Africa 2024, and just finding out a little bit about her and her journey. And so I will add Tshego in. And there we go.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, Tshego.
Hello. Wait, let me just figure out why this camera is
Is
facing the
it?
other way. That's better.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. It's good to see you after a while. So, guys, just a FYI, Tejo and I were actually colleagues in a work environment that we were both in previously. And so we met there. But really, like I said, the whole purpose of this month and what we're talking about are just women who are just driven beyond just, what they do for a living, women who are multi-talented and multifaceted. And so, yeah, Tessa, thank you for joining. It's so good to see
Hang
you. I haven't
on.
seen you in
Wait.
person for a
Can
while.
you see me? I can't see you.
Really? I can see
A
you.
bit strange. Okay, wait.
Really.
Let me do something.
Do you want to hop off and then maybe hop on again?
Yeah, I want to try that.
All right, cool. Let's do that. So we'll wait for Tessa to join. And now little nightstand is also performing. Okay. So as I was saying when Tsecho, before she joined that, yeah, we're talking to women who are doing incredible things, but tonight's discussion specifically is on the multifaceted woman. And what does it mean to be a multifaceted woman in our modern day and age? All right, so we'll just wait. Can't see Tsecho here. All right, let's try again. Okay, awesome. Can you see me now?
I can see you now. I can see
Hi,
you
Tsecho.
now.
Can you see me? Okay,
Yeah.
awesome. Okay, so without any further ado, Tsecho, I mean, okay, so we know you're Mrs. South Africa 2024, which is so exciting. And I know there's a journey behind that, and we'll get to that a little bit later. But I kind of wanted to start off the conversation with Tsecho, who is a young girl, and maybe walk us through some of the things that growing up you were like, these are things I aspire to, not just from a work vocation perspective, but what was Tsecho, between ages 13 and 16 thinking about in terms of her life and what she thought it would look like and what she wanted it to look like?
Yeah. So between the ages of 13 and 16 or 16 to a bit older,
Sure.
I don't think she anticipated that she would be what she is now. I thought I was going to be the next Deborah Petter. I wanted to be a journalist, and that was like the biggest thing, like the biggest hot topic. How am I going to become the next Deborah Petter? How am I going to be an investigating journalist?
Sure.
And yeah, like law was, it was a thought, but not so much as like this is the career I'm actually going to chase.
Mm,
And then I think closer to the end of my high schooling was more when to sit down and actually weigh the options of what exactly do I want to get out of life, or what do I want, what would give me the greater fulfillment, the report or the uncover of the story, or the behind the scenes solving of the problem. And I think the behind the
Sure.
scenes solving problem was a lot more purposeful for me,
Sure.
and I did towards that, and I ended up studying law. I actually went through, those career guidance tests where they go through your skills and then they advise you what you're likely to be most successful as. And for me, it came out that I should go be an actor,
Sure.
ironically,
Performance.
go into performance. And I think I'm not the greatest of actors,
Sure.
but I can see why law and acting would go together, because literally you go into character. You
Yeah.
go into character.
Yes, exactly, right? I mean, it's part and parcel of the job. Actually, that's funny because I'll never forget, I had a drama teacher in high school, and she said to me, you're really good at public speaking as well. And that actually complements a career being, when she found out later on that I became a lawyer, she's like, yeah, it makes absolute sense. You were in my drama class, you did public speaking. That's exactly what you use
Mm,
as a lawyer. You have to be convincing in the arguments you make, which sometimes comes with a little bit of drama.
absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And especially, can you hear me? Sorry, I lost sound there a little bit. Why am I losing sound? Let's see. Let's
Are we back?
Now we're back. Now,
Awesome. Sorry, we had a bit of a break and a glitch there. I don't know if you heard my last question, Sahar.
I didn't get you.
Yeah, so I want to now know. So then you study the law, you want to solve the problem, you want to be behind the scenes, you get into the reality of work, and then what happens?
Sure. You learn that this is not Ellie McBeal. This is not Boston Legal. This is not Suits. It's not. It can be as glamorous as it looks, but in all likelihood, it's not like that. And
Yeah,
yeah, in all likelihood, it's not like that. It takes literal blood, sweat, and tears, and yeah, I think you imagine your career turning out a certain way, and then life sort of also happens to shift you to different paths, different directions. I mean, for one, I don't think I ever imagined myself in corporate. I don't think I ever imagined myself um, being in corporate and sitting as a legal advisor and not necessarily being in court every day. I think that's where I saw myself. And not to say that I'll never stay in corporate or I'll never go back to litigation. I think
yeah,
I'm at a point where I've been very open and receptive to taking in the lessons that life wants to give me, the lessons that life wants to teach me. I've been very open to taking them in, and also being very open to um, finding the path that is for me, or creating it, the path that is
sure.
for me.
That's
Yeah.
so good. That's so good. I like that about what ends up choosing you and what life wants to teach you, because I think as part of also being women in the modern context, there are so many roles you play. And I mean, maybe you can just give us a sense. Of course, your bio told us a bunch of what you do. You're an attorney, you're a wife, you're a mom, you're currently Mrs. South Africa. And maybe the question that often gets posed to women who are doing so well, juggling so many hats, is, do you think a woman or that women can have it all? A lot of women sometimes feel I need to either make a choice between my career or my family. I need to make a choice between, the dreams and the visions I have and having a sense of community that often for women doesn't allow us always to do that because the demands are so many, back in the day. Our mothers and grandmothers primarily took care of the home, and that was their sort of primary role. Some of them obviously did work and things, but today you can do so many things. And I think the question is twofold. Do you think we can have it all? um and what does that look like, having it all?
Um, I think women can have it all. I definitely think women can have it all, but not all of it at the same time.
Sure.
And it varies how much of all of it that you can have at a time.
Sure.
So we have to be realistic, and you can't do everything under the sun. You can do everything but not all at the same time. You can be
Yeah.
everything but not at the same time. You
Mm,
can definitely have a piece of everything and have it all, but you have to be realistic about the how much of all of
mm,
it can you have
yeah.
at a time.
Yeah.
Because in reality, something is going to drop. All the balls
Yeah.
that you're gonna be juggling, something is going to drop. And it just all takes serious, serious commitment to prioritizing and knowing how to use your time effectively. It's not easy
Mm,
to use your time effectively because in my line of prioritization, my priorities could be in a certain order that doesn't sit well with the next person who wants to be a bit higher on
yeah.
my priority. And there's just, unfortunately, while I'm trying to have it all, there's things that are going to be sacrificed. So I think while we can definitely have it all, we can have it all of it, but definitely not at the same time and
Yeah.
not all the time,
Yeah.
because mental health is still crucial.
Yeah.
You still need a piece of yourself to yourself,
Yeah.
um, and not necessarily to everyone else that you are giving yourself to, your community,
Yeah.
your employment, your family, your friends, it varies to which degree we can have all of it and at which time. And I think
Yeah.
it's okay not to be everywhere every time, but
Yeah.
just know that you will have a piece of that. You can have a piece of that.
Yeah. So good. And I think that also speaks to the seasons of life, which I guess in the
Mm,
modern day westernized culture that we primarily operate in, there's sometimes a lack of appreciation for process and seasons and timing for things. And I
mhm,
think for the fact that we're exposed to the inner worlds and lives of other people all the time through social media, the pressure internally to feel sometimes like I could also be doing this and doing that, but not knowing the background
mhm.
um, for a particular person, So a person could look at a Tseho highlight and think, oh my gosh, she's doing all of this, but there was a process.
Yeah.
There's a support structure. There's sacrifices,
Mm,
very real things that you've had to also sort of contend with. And then I guess that leads me to a different question or link to it is then what is your definition of success? What does it look like to live a successful life?
hmm. I think my definition of success, it entails various aspects, and living a successful life for me would take on different
Mm,
forms. It involves um, achieving goals. It involves being truly content, being truly authentic, and being okay in my own skin, in my own lane, in my own projects that I want to see through, in with my own goals, with my own dreams and my own aspirations, and
yeah.
really being true, living a true life while striving to attain those things. So I think success and living a successful life doesn't necessarily mean having all the money and living in the biggest house and driving the most
Yeah.
expensive. If maybe that was a dream or a goal for me and I managed to achieve it, then that would be success to me. But it also means being authentic about what are my aspirations, what are my
Yes.
and for me, and what it takes for me to achieve those things truly, and not compromising on my values and the person that I am, and the life that I really, really want to live for myself, for my family. I think that is what living a successful life is for me. And every day committing to getting things done that need to get done,
Sure.
um, and just being active and productive and doing what needs to get done, because sometimes we want the wants. Sometimes we want all the wants, and all the
Yes.
wants are what makes us successful. But actually getting the things that need to get done also done, I think contributes a
Yes.
lot towards living a successful life.
That's so, so good. So also being intentional about all those parts, I guess, and it ties back to your earlier point about not necessarily having everything at once, but whatever is on your plate,
Mm,
do well with what you have in your hands. Use what you have and use it well. Yeah, it's great.
absolutely.
That is so, so great. So of course, as we talk, say girl.
Smashing a to-do list.
Yes, right. Let's not talk about to-do lists because yeah, no, I live on those really. Yeah. Um, so we're talking about staying in your own lane, and then of course you went and entered pageantry. I mean, not a typical route for lawyers to pursue in general. Okay. But I'm interested to know. So I know a little bit of the journey, and I think we've kind of touched a little bit in your bio and things about it. But I want to know the journey into pageantry. Talk us through what inspired it, why that in particular, and then I'll come back to other things.
Yeah, me into pageantry. The most random decision to click the enter button and to chase a very, very different path. I think I was
Sure.
starting to feel very bored, for lack of a better word, with my life, the routine that I found myself in, not much excitement, a lot happening, but not the excitement that I'm looking for.
Sure.
But
I'll be
also,
looking for it.
yeah, I think also when I started learning a bit more about Mrs. South Africa and learning that Mrs. South Africa is absolutely more than just a pageant, I think it became more and more clear why I decided to enter Mrs. South Africa and why I stayed on with my journey and why I saw it through to the end. And that was because of the many, many things, many more things that it is more than just a pageant. The
Mm,
that South Africa gets to give you. You get to share spaces with such accomplished women. Imagine being in a room with 100 other women who are established in their careers, who have.
yeah.
You may think you don't have your stuff going together, and you think the next person has their stuff together and they know what's
Sure.
going on in their life. Meanwhile, they thinking the same thing about you.
About
You
you.
just get to grow together with these people that influence your life so positively and like allow you to tap into your highest potential, see yourself as your most highest potential. And I think
Sure.
um, that and the fact that Mrs. South Africa is a use your part to launch whatever aspirations you have for yourself. And for me, I started wanting to become more. I started wanting to become more for myself, more for my family, more for my community,
Sure.
being more that I I could have been doing with my life compared to what I had been doing with my life 2 years ago. And I think I really discovered the courage to be that more, to see that more, and channel myself towards that more, work towards becoming that more. And every day, um, I think I enjoy the pursuit to becoming more. I don't know if one day I'll get to a place where I'm like, wow, great, I got to the more, and I'm
Right.
to stay here and park here. Since I decided to enter Mrs. South Africa and subsequently having become Mrs. South Africa, I think
Yes.
I pursuit of wanting to become that more and striving towards becoming that more and working towards becoming that
Yeah.
more for myself, for my community, for my family,
Yeah.
and I never looked back. I went in and I
Sure.
committed. I think one thing about me is that I'm a finisher, as AKA would
Yes.
say. I'm a finisher
Yeah.
and I'm a finisher. So
Yeah.
I
Yes.
started out till the end, and we finished
Sure.
strong.
Come
We
on.
got the strongest finish.
That's it.
We got the strongest finish.
Yeah. And that's really cool because I think you kind of answered a question I'd wanted to ask you about the relevance, not maybe the relevance, but the importance still of pageantry. There's a school of, there's a camp that almost has this view that pageantry was originally designed to kind of actually stereotype and demean women in the sense that they try prescribe standards of beauty, they try prescribe um you know these boxes that women through patriarchy and history have had to fill, sometimes what has been perceived as unattainable. But your explanation was really cool because it actually inspired you to be a better you in every other aspect of your life. It's not just the what we see and the looks and the costuming and whatnot, that it actually, by going through the process, you engage with other women and you're just like, hectic, this is it. So is it fair to say that there's a sense of sisterhood that you developed through it, and how have those connections served you even after?
Sure. I think you see the aspect of sisterhood. That's one of Mrs. South Africa's pillars, actually. It's one of Mrs. South Africa's brand pillars. And for me personally, it's one of my crowning moments walking out of Mrs. South Africa. More than just the crown and the sash and the title, sisterhood is definitely one of my crowning moments, because I walked away with people that I don't just refer to as friends, but I refer to them as sisters. And I say that
Sure.
truly and honestly, because if I can pick up the phone and um, someone on the other side can hear my distress in my voice and put
Mm,
everything down that they're doing and drive to come and find me wherever I am to try and
sure.
calm me down. I think the aspect of sisterhood is of utmost importance to Mrs. South Africa.
Yeah.
The one thing that I learned and appreciated and grew with Mrs. South Africa is that whether you are pink, whether you are green, whether you are short or tall, you are slim, you are fuller figured, you are light, you are dark, you are whatever package you come in, you decide for yourself and you define for yourself what is beauty to
Sure.
you. How do you feel beautiful? How do you feel? And the biggest thing is that when you feel beautiful, you will automatically radiate that
Sure.
confidence, that beauty. And when you are feeling like you are beautiful according to your standards, that radiation of all that is good, all that is bold, all that is confident
Yeah.
is going to come out. And it's going
Yeah.
to be, because that's exactly what Mrs. South Africa wants out of you, the best version of you.
Yeah.
And I think it was so great to be amongst sisters that saw each other in their own different versions of beauty and celebrate that. Imagine being on a stage with 29 other finalists and seeing 29 versions of this is an amazing woman, and just feel like she will celebrate
Sure.
me for my version of
Sure.
beauty. as will I for the next sister. And I think
Yeah.
um, our Mrs. South Africa definitely still follows the international pageantry standards. It is larger. It's a larger platform than just a pageant. And for
Right.
me, highly, highly recommend if you're looking for a place to grow. I think if there's one thing
Yeah.
I felt like I was stretched and I was molded and I grew
Mm.
and bounds.
Yeah, that's really good to hear because I think the other thing it dispels is that this thing that women cannot be unified, that when women come together, there can't be a sense. I mean, of course, the nature of it is a competition. So obviously you want to win. That's why you're there. But there's a narrative in our society sometimes that we women are gathered, we hate each other, we're not actually
Mm,
rooting for each other. Yeah, sure, you won't like everybody, but I think what you're saying is like, no, this is actually bigger. I'm actually drawing off of the strengths of some of the women I meet in her differences from me. I'm able to actually be like,
mm,
I walk away not just with a crown, but I want to call them soldierettes, who are with me too. And we don't have to bring each other down. We don't need to point out weaknesses. Which is really
absolutely.
awesome, which is really awesome and so wholesome because I think that hasn't been the perception of pageantry
Mm,
for a long time, that it's a
mm,
wholesome thing,
mm.
Um, but yeah, just maybe as to loop it off because I see our time is fast coming up. I think then my sort of last question to you is what would you leave as an encouragement? I mean, for women who are watching today, their dreams, and maybe it's like what you've said. I know there are all these things I want to do with my life. I don't feel like maybe some of them are at the place you were at before you applied. Yes, I have a good life, but I'm not fully fulfilled. What is a word of encouragement that you want to give women who are still like, I still feel like I have a lot of dreams in me. I have a lot in me still, but it's just not happening, the way I want.
Mm. I think my word of encouragement sounds very simple. Um, start. Just start.
Sure.
However small, however small the step may be, just take it.
Yeah.
And I understand that it's not always as easy as that. The life happens, circumstances around us, but where there's a will, really there's a way. Where there's a will, there's a way, and there are find yourself a platform that will allow you to start and safely so,
Sure.
especially when it's difficult and life's odds are stacked against you. You feel like life's odds are stacked against you.
Yeah.
Start in
Yeah.
however small way it may be. Like if I had aspirations to be, I don't know, a millionaire or a thousandaire, I have
Yeah.
to start somewhere.
Yeah.
Even if I start with like 10 Rand or I start with 100 Rand,
Yeah.
practically speaking, it won't happen unless you start. So my word of encouragement
Mm,
is no matter how small the step may be, take it and just start. Start where
so
you
good.
are. Mm.
Yeah. Use what you have.
Use
Any
what you
Yeah. Any parting comments from you in general? I mean, I think I feel, yeah, just like the whole woman empowerment movement and things like there are times where people feel like, oh, we've heard that, been there, done that. I mean, like, is it still a relevant conversation? Like I said, sitting with women like yourself who are doing so many things, people are like, why are we still having this conversation? Women are already doing it. I guess I'm asking another question now. But really just like, what are your thoughts about that sort of thing? What do you think about the relevance of still talking about women in leadership, women empowerment? Aren't women already empowered? Aren't we already doing it?
I will never get tired of talking about women empowerment, honestly speaking, because um the wins of women are worthy of being celebrated. The wins of people, really, but the
Sure.
wins of
Sure.
women have been so many, many, many decades under oppression and being suppressed. And I will never, I don't know, in my lifetime, I don't think I'll get
Yeah.
tired of talking about women empowerment, especially because there are still women. and people that are yet to feel empowered. So until we get to a point where um, everyone is empowered and there are no longer any young women coming after us that still also need a platform of empowerment, then we can stop talking about women being empowered. But until then, I'm personally not tired of hearing about women empowerment. In fact, it's 110% still relevant to be talking
Sure.
about women empowerment for as long as there are sisters that still need to be put on, or that still need a stepping stone, or that still need a hand, a helping hand. We're not
Yes.
far from finishing this topic of women empowerment.
Sure, sure. That's very good. Yeah, I guess it's kind of like when we have debates about things that happened in history, and people are like, get over it already. No, I mean, we can't erase that it happened, but let's also not minimize the win it has been for a group of people, which resonates with me as well, and I love that. Secha, thank you so much for joining in.
Thank you
Yeah, and
very much. I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of
oh.
you. You're
Oh,
proud of it.
this, I guess this context, but I took your advice to start. We
That,
start.
that's
And I'm always encouraged by your journey as well. Maybe another time we'll have a longer conversation just about the background to all of that. But thank you, Tejo. You are an inspiration, and grateful to have had you, and wishing you the best for the remainder of your reign. And I guess for those who are interested in a Mrs. South Africa, where do they find out to apply? Is there a link? Is there a place? Has it started already?
Yeah, so the class of 2024 have already started. They started in
Okay.
February at the casting. So follow Mrs.
Okay.
South Africa's Instagram page. All the
Cool.
information is always shared there when entries do open later on in the year. But
Sure.
follow Mrs. South Africa. You'll find Mrs. South Africa. If you type in Mrs. South Africa, you don't see this face. It's not the page.
It's not the right page. Okay. Got it. Awesome. Thank you, Sarah. Have a lovely evening. Bye to everyone who's joined
Thank
us.
you.
Thank you. Bye.